So many people believe that once you awaken spiritually, your problems will simply disappear, as if enlightenment means you'll never face pain, conflict, or loss again. But here's the truth. Awakening doesn't end challenges. What it does end is the unconscious habit of turning those challenges into unhappiness. And that is the greatest shift you will ever experience. Many people carry the idea that spiritual awakening is like stepping into a new dimension where challenges disappear and life flows effortlessly without resistance. It's a comforting fantasy, but as Eckhart Tolle points out, is simply not true. When you awaken spiritually, it doesn't mean this is the end of challenges. They don't stop. The only difference is you no longer unconsciously transform the challenges of life into unhappiness. That sentence contains the essence of true awakening. The external events of life remain the same. Bills still need to be paid, health issues may arise, loved ones may disappoint, jobs may be lost. The flow of gain and loss continues, just as the tides rise and fall. But the awakened person no longer allows these events to become the core of their identity. The challenge is still there, but it doesn't turn into suffering. Think of someone losing their job. For the unawakened mind, that event becomes a personal tragedy. I'm a failure. My life is ruined. Everything is falling apart. The event is no longer just an event. It becomes who they are. For the awakened person, however, there is still a shock, perhaps a moment of fear, but beneath it remains an inner stillness. Instead of thinking, this destroys me, there is the recognition. This is something happening in the field of life, but it does not touch the essence of who I am. This shift is monumental. It is not about denying reality or pretending difficulties don't exist. It's about seeing them from a deeper place of awareness. Awakening is like stepping out of a storm shelter. The storm still rages, but you are no longer swept away by it. The gift of awakening, then, is not that life suddenly becomes free of chaos, but that chaos no longer rules you. As Tolle explains, life challenges will keep coming. The difference is, you no longer transform them into an unhappy me. This is liberation in its purest form. Awakening doesn't erase pain, but it prevents pain from crystallizing into suffering. It doesn't remove the noise of the world, but it reveals the silence within you that remains untouched. At the core of human suffering lies a simple but devastating mistake. We confuse who we truly are with the story our mind tells about us. Eckhart Tolle explains it clearly. The entire psychological self that you think you are consists of a storyline, a narrative that you think about and you call it my life. From early childhood, the mind begins weaving this narrative. It gathers memories of what was done to you, what you achieved, what you lost, every triumph, and every wound. Slowly, this bundle of memories and thought forms solidifies into what you call your personality. The mind says, this is me. This is who I am. But in truth, it is only a mental image. This is the unawakened state, living imprisoned in a story made of past events and future projections. Tolle emphasizes, so you're confined to this ultimately mind-made sense of self that exists in time. The past shapes your identity. I am this way because of what happened to me, while the future is where you project fulfillment. One day, I'll finally become who I want to be. In both directions, you're trapped in time. The tragedy of this mental prison is that it always carries a subtle dissatisfaction. No matter how polished your story looks to others, on social media, in achievements, in reputation, inside there remains an unease, a whisper that says, I am not enough. And because this identity is unstable, you constantly compare yourself with others, pretending everything is fine while secretly feeling the burden of not measuring up. This prison is reinforced by society itself. Technology now amplifies it. Facebook, Instagram, and endless selfies allow us to polish the mental image of me and broadcast it to the world. Yet, as Tolle notes, the greater it looks on your Facebook page, the worse you feel inside. The more you decorate the prison walls, the more you forget they are walls. Awakening begins the moment you see the prison for what it is. You recognize that your past story is not your essence, and your imagined future is not your identity. You are the awareness behind both. To awaken is to step outside of the mental narrative and realize, I am not my story. I am the consciousness in which the story appears. Every human being, whether they admit it or not, carries what Eckhart Tolle calls a life situation. It is the bundle of problems, responsibilities, and circumstances that follow you like a shadow. Your relationships, your finances, your career, your health. Some days the burden feels lighter, other days it feels almost unbearable, but it never completely disappears. As Tolle observes, there is not a single person who does not carry this burden of their life situation, whether it is heavy or light at the moment. The unawakened mind treats this life situation as the essence of who you are. You think, I am my problems. I am my story. I am what has happened to me and what I fear might happen next. And so, the mind frames existence itself as a problem to be solved. Even if you don't say it out loud, an underlying thought whispers constantly, something is not quite right here. This creates a subtle but persistent dissatisfaction. You look at others, neighbors, strangers, people on social media, and believe they are problem-free. They seem happy, put together, successful. And so the mind concludes, what's wrong with me? Why am I always struggling? Tolle points out the irony. Everyone is carrying a burden, but most are busy pretending they are not. And so, to avoid shame, you begin to pretend as well. The result is a vicious cycle. Everyone curates their image, posting smiles, achievements, and polished snapshots of their lives, while inside they still feel the same weight. As Tolle explains with piercing clarity, the greater it looks on your Facebook page, the worse you feel inside. The performance of perfection only deepens the inner sense of inadequacy. What's tragic is that this burden can shift endlessly but never truly vanish. You solve one financial problem, and another appears. You heal one relationship, but a new conflict arises. You manage your health for a while, and then the body changes again. Life situations evolve, but the underlying weight remains, unless you awaken to a deeper truth. The key insight is this: your life situation is not your life. Your true life exists only in the present moment, beyond the story of problems and future solutions. Awakening is the recognition that while you may carry a situation, it does not define your essence. As Tolle emphasizes, you are not the burden. You're the awareness that perceives it. Not all suffering comes from external events. In fact, a large portion of human unhappiness is generated entirely by the mind itself. Eckhart Tolle explains, unhappiness starts with a slight irritation when you're waiting in line and the line is not moving. Or unhappiness is when you wake up at 3 in the morning and you begin to worry. Worry means you have created scenarios in your thoughts about things going wrong. This is the heart of the problem. The mind fabricates stories, projects fearful futures, or replays painful pasts, and the body reacts as if these stories were real. You are lying safely in bed, but the mind whispers, what if I lose my job? What if something happens to my health? What if I fail? The body believes it and responds with anxiety, tension, and unease. In Tolle's words, the body can't tell the difference between an actual real event out there and something that only your mind is creating. This cycle becomes a trap. Thoughts generate emotions. Emotions fuel more thoughts, and soon the person is entangled in a web of suffering with no external cause. Worry is the clearest example. It has never solved a single problem, but many people are addicted to it. As Tolle observes, take the worrying away and a huge chunk of their personality is suddenly gone. The worrying mind convinces itself that fretting equals responsibility, when in truth, it is only reinforcing fear. Even small irritations, if repeated, shape identity. A person who constantly reacts to delays, traffic, or long phone queues eventually becomes an irritated person. They unconsciously seek more situations to justify their irritation. As Tolle humorously puts it, the irritated person is actually, without knowing it, looking for more irritation. The deeper issue is identification. When you're completely absorbed by thought, every mental story carries a sense of me. You believe you are the voice in your head, and even when you try to silence it, saying, "Why can't you just shut up?" that too is the voice. The real liberation comes from creating a space between the thought and the observer. Suffering, then, is not created by the situation itself, but by the mental narrative around it. Awakening begins when you ask, what would this moment be like without the story my mind is adding to it? In that simple question lies the possibility of freedom. If suffering arises not from life itself, but from our identification with thoughts about life, then the way out is not to eliminate challenges, but to transform our relationship to them. This is where presence becomes the key. Eckhart Tolle reminds us, there's a dimension of consciousness where you are not trapped on that level. One could almost say that you can get off that speeding train. Transcendence does not mean abandoning the human experience. You will still have bills, relationships, health concerns, and moments of chaos. But you no longer allow those situations to define the essence of who you are. You discover the space within, the awareness that notices thoughts, emotions, and problems without becoming them. Presence is cultivated first in the small moments. Standing in a long line, instead of fueling irritation with mental stories, you breathe, you feel the aliveness in your body, you notice the present moment. Tolle explains, how would I experience this moment if I did not add these thoughts to it? In that simple shift, irritation dissolves and awareness shines through. These small practices prepare you for the bigger storms of life. When larger challenges come, a job loss, a breakup, a diagnosis, the same principle applies. You recognize the challenge, you take action if needed, but you remain rooted in presence rather than fear. Tolle warns that action taken from panic or anger is weak, but the quality of your consciousness in the present moment determines the quality of your actions. By anchoring in presence, you act with clarity and power instead of desperation. This is why spiritual traditions across history have spoken of liberation, salvation, or awakening. Buddha said, "I teach suffering and the end of suffering." Jesus spoke of salvation. Other traditions call it enlightenment. The words differ, but the pointing is the same: freedom from the tyranny of identification with the mind. To awaken is not to escape life, but to live it more deeply. Problems may remain, but the heavy burden of suffering dissolves. You are no longer just a person trapped in their life situation. You are the awareness in which life situations rise and fall. And that awareness is untouched, timeless, and free. And now I'll ask you, have you noticed moments in your own life when you could step back and observe your mind instead of being consumed by it? Share your experience in the comments below, because your insight may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this message resonated with you, give this video a like and subscribe for more teachings that help you awaken to who you truly are.